Joe Biden came out and gave a speech condemning the riots and the violence sweeping the country. This was interesting for several reasons. Obviously, I guess the main thing is that it was not mentioned at the Democratic National Convention. Now, if you have a full convention with dozens of speakers, including, yourself, your vice presidential running mate, the former nominee / secretary of state, the last sitting president, the last first lady, the governor of New York, all these huge high profile figures. And this topic does not come up once. Nobody thinks it's even worthy of mentioning it. And then the Republicans have a convention where they make this a huge issue. And then a couple days later, you have to come out and give a speech about this issue. I don't know what could be a clearer indication in politics that basically all of your data, all of your research was indicating that this is a really big problem for you. I don't think there's any way to escape that. I just think about that. A topic that wasn't worthy of being mentioned once by anyone, but is worthy of you coming out and giving a full speech about it just a few days later. Now, that is a devastating sign for the Biden campaign. And obviously, just inherently by the fact that you have to do that, it shows that they were really concerned about this stuff. But I think there's a lot of other interesting parts of this and lessons that can be learned from this situation. It was, only a week ago that the entire corporate press and the Democratic establishment and all of that, their line was that this stuff didn't exist. Or if it did exist, it was being greatly, over dramatized, and Trump's trying to scare you. He's playing into the politics of fear or something like that. People were ridiculed and smeared for bringing it up. I have a little bit of experience in that department. A lot of people didn't want to talk about it. A lot of people wanted to say that they support the movement Black Lives Matter without explicitly condemning all of this violence related to it. And that narrative has all completely changed. And I touched on this on one of the recent podcasts when I mentioned that I thought it was a really big deal that Don Lemon over at CNN all of a sudden said, hey, I think it's a problem that Democrats are ignoring this. It's starting to show up in the polls. And only a couple days later, the nominee himself, Joe Biden, the former vice president, has to go out and condemn this stuff because you know what? That is, without saying it, the Biden campaign agreeing with Don Lemon that yes, in fact, this stuff is starting to show up in the polls. There's a real lesson for libertarians in here who were either, I was going to say afraid, but perhaps the correct term is, a more generous term would be unwilling to condemn the riots. Some people, I think, just genuinely didn't agree with condemning the riots. I think some people just thought, they had their ideological blinders on and they were saying, you know what, the movement is good. And any movement that's against police has got to be, we have to be on their side. Or they think for strategic reasons that you can, if you talk to the Black Lives Matter people, you can pull more votes in that way than if you talk to the people who are upset at the Black Lives Matter movement. For whatever reason, there were a lot of libertarians who not only didn't want to criticize the riots, but actually got very upset with people who were criticizing the riots. And it should show you something when you had this as a major feature in the Republican convention. Now, if it was just that, right? Like if the Democrats weren't criticizing it and the Republicans were, I suppose you could make an argument that, well, I just think, the Republicans are playing to their base and the Democrats are playing to their base. And it's not clear that one is a better strategy than the other. But the fact that the Democrats had to cave on it and come out and condemn the riots pretty much shows you that actually it's a winning issue to be against the riots. Now, obviously, it's also the right thing to do. And as I've been saying for months, I don't really even understand how this is a difficult sell for libertarians. Like, if you're a libertarian, you are against initiating violence against peaceful people, which is what's happening in major cities across the country. It's not like 1 or 2 or 3 cities. It's like almost all of them across the country. As major, like large numbers, thousands of businesses looted. Dozens of people have been either murdered or seriously injured. Hundreds of people have been assaulted. This is all over the place. And, the corporate press game plan, which essentially for months was to pretend this wasn't happening.